What is going on, guys? My name is Doug, and on YouTube I go by the name Always On Board, where I make a lot of gameplay videos and stuff like that. But today it's not really about the gameplay, it's about talking about ITT Tech and my college experience throughout the last 2 years. First of all, I want to say that I'm graduating in March, and there's a lot of things that I went into this school not knowing that I know now, and so it's going to be in between when it comes to talking about this school. Some good things and some bad things. But the first thing that you're always going to hear from everybody is the fact that if you want to learn something, you learn it. Okay, when you go there, you got to want it, and that's where I was standing at the time. I had this YouTube channel, and I knew what I wanted, and I knew that I needed to make things better with my editing and whatnot, and not have other people's help me out, or other people help me out with any editing that I needed for my YouTube channel. I wanted to be able to do it by myself. Any editing that I needed to do to represent my videos, I wanted to do it by myself, like create YouTube backgrounds and whatnot. And so what I did is I went to school, and there's a lot of things that they taught me, and there's a lot of things that I learned on my own, because I would go to school, and the weirdest thing was that I'd walk in and I would be telling the teacher to teach me something that I really needed help with. And if the teacher wasn't going to, help me out, I would just write it down on my phone and go home and then study that when I got home. So it was kind of like going to college was like an eye-opener for me, because when I went to college, I knew exactly what I learned, and then more on my own time that I wanted to learn after that. And I don't know if that made sense, but there was a teacher there who had stated that on the first day, if this is what you want, you have to do it when you're not here as well. And for me, that was no problem. I was at home learning constantly, like for every program that we use. Now with ITT Tech, I did go to the Stockton area, ITT Tech, and what's it called? And so the programs that we did use there were Photoshop was the one we used the most. And then we used had class one time for Illustrator, and I didn't learn a damn thing. Like, that's one of the programs that I don't get, really. We had one class that revolved around Flash. We had one web design class for like Dreamweaver or whatever, and I didn't learn much in that because that was like the point that I didn't get. We learned 3ds Max. I think I had two classes with 3ds Max, which was like Animation 1 and Animation 2, and those were a bit tough for me. And one of the biggest things is that we use only PCs, so I have a Mac at home, and I couldn't even use that program whenever I was at home, so I wasn't able to go home and learn more on my own time. So I didn't really learn too much when it came to 3D animation and stuff like that, and modeling. Let's see, we had one After Effects class, and on my own, I learned how to use After Effects because that's something I went to school for. And in the beginning, I walked in, I said, this is what I want to learn. They said, yeah, we do this and that. But really, we didn't really do that. I mean, I walked in there and I was telling my teacher how to do some of the things. I mean, he's a really smart guy, and I'll talk about him in a second. I probably have to use more gameplay footage because I'm going to run out of space or time. But I walked in there knowing more than I think the teacher had been teaching us. Just because I was up to date on it, and so anything that had to do with After Effects I learned on my own. And at school we didn't learn too much, just like this, if you drag this to this and blah 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 blah. So the very basic of the basics is what you learn, and then that's the last class that you have for After Effects. Now I went there for that, so I was really bummed out. Let me see what other class we had. Oh, we had a Premiere class. And even with that, I mean, I never used Premiere at that time, but I was using Sony Vegas Pro, I think 9 or 10 at the time. So I already knew the gist of how to use a program, and they're basically the same program. So it took me about 2 weeks, and then now the only program I use is Premiere Pro, just because it works well with After Effects and whatnot. But we, did a few little projects in Premiere, and there was a lot of kids in the class that learned a lot. But for me, it was just I already knew how to do it. So basically, out of the 2 years that I've been there, the one thing that I really learned was Photoshop, like pretty much using everything around Photoshop. So I can't bag on the school to say that I didn't learn anything, because I really wanted to learn it, so I walked away with that. I wish they would have taught me more in After Effects. I wish they would have provided more. All the programs that we used at the time were all CS3 based, and I don't even know what year that is, but right now I have CS6 on my computer, so I mean 3 programs higher than what they're teaching you in class. So there's a lot of things where I would have to go home and I would work on stuff, but if I worked at home and I brought it back to school, I wouldn't be able to reopen it at school because of the fact that it was so out of date, or it wouldn't work well with each other. And I'm sorry about the stupid dog, but the gist of it is that I graduate soon, and that ITT Tech was expensive. I think it was like $50,000. And I don't know what it turned out to be, or how much I have to actually pay after whatever. But I traveled there because I don't live anywhere near it. I had to travel like an hour and a half to get there, an hour. So that was cool. The one thing that I hated was the fact that we had one teacher, and this guy was so cool, like amazing. Mr. D was like the only reason why I learned anything in school, and he was the only reason why I think anybody learned at that school, to be honest with you. We had 3 teachers that we really worked with, and the only way you were learning from one of the 3 teachers that I didn't learn from is if you were actually there for 3D modeling. I didn't learn anything, but there were some kids that did. And the other teacher, I mean, I didn't really learn too much from him. He was just not easy for me to follow. But for the most part, Mr. D was the teacher there at the time, and they had gotten rid of him like 4 or 5 months ago before I even graduated. So, I mean, it just sucks because he's the only reason why I learned anything, and it sucks that he won't be there for graduation and whatnot. But that guy was a smart guy. So there are some teachers there that work with stuff, and he had, been, let's say, he's been in college. He had about his bachelor's degree and whatnot, and he had worked in the industry for his own stuff and on his own personal time. So he was able to teach me a lot. But for the most part, I mean, I made pretty good friends there, and I met some people. I'm close to the chairman of the school, the dean. There's a lot of people there that just want you there for the money, and if you don't do anything on your own time, you're not going to learn anything. But for me, I won't go back there for a bachelor program because they took out the program that I was going to take, which was going to be game design. I was thinking at the time, but they took that out and switched it for business, and I don't want to learn business. I want to be on the creative side of things and keep learning that stuff. But I see that my videos ran out, but I think I still want to make sure that I touch up on everything. Let's see. I spoke about the programs that we used. Oh yeah, the downfall of it is that you spend a lot of time in classes that you honestly would never think that you were going to do at the school. I had like 2 or 3 English classes. I had a introduction to math where I was doing like junior high school math, and then I had like a geometry class, and then I had like a geometry/trigonometry class, and I'm just like mind blown. Hate math. So that sucked. I had like an art appreciation class, a few drawing classes where you have to like do storyboarding and whatnot, which is cool to some people. And then there was one where you had to do like life drawings and like draw people and stuff like that. But for the most part, everything was a waste of time to me, except for anything that had to do with Photoshop. And I had about 3 or 4 Photoshop classes. And I mean, to add to it, like the first month that you're there, like, because every set is like, it's 11 weeks. Like you go to school for 11 weeks, and then you get a week off, and then you go to school for another 11 weeks in different classes. So for the first 11 weeks, I didn't learn anything. We sat around and talked about how to make goals and, follow through with goals and stuff like that. And then they teach you how to do stuff in Microsoft Word and teach you how to use like PowerPoint. I mean, for the most part, our generation, which I was born in 91, our generation has been using that stuff since they were in 5th grade. I mean, I've been using Microsoft Word forever. Like that's not the kind of stuff that I think that people should be teaching people within $50,000 worth of time. And on top of that, you don't walk away with any programs. Like they don't give you any Adobe programs to use at home. Like we had a video class where they were supposed to provide us with video cameras to videotape like a short movie or whatnot, edit and all that stuff, and there was no cameras. So we had to resort to contacting other people for cameras, or maybe someone in the group had a camera that we could use, and then we'd have to go and all meet up, and one guy lives an hour that way, this girl lives an hour that way, and I live an hour the other way, and then we have to somehow meet up and go and do other things. But for the most part, it was a waste of time. And I did a few online classes during the 2 years, which was art appreciation and English 2 or Comp 2 or whatever. I regret that. I'll never do an English class or an online class ever again. So that leaves me to what am I going to do now? I have no idea. For the most part, I've had internships because of college, but that's not because the college gave it to me. It's because I went out and spoke to them, and then once I spoke to them, they called the college to see if I was actually a student or whatnot. And I've had a lot of life lessons where people screw you over in this industry. They just want to use you. You know, you're young and whatnot, so it's kind of like a game to them. So I've done a lot of free work, and I've done a lot of stuff on my spare time. I still have this YouTube channel, which is like a hobby to me and what keeps me going. But for the most part, if I had an option to go to this school, I mean, I still would say that I would take it. I would take that opportunity to go because Photoshop is like the main thing you learn, and Photoshop is pretty much all I really use besides After Effects. So, yeah, I learned enough to say that I would do it again, but I wish there was more to it. And if you have an option, like let's say you live in the Bay Area, I would go to Academy of Art, just because, I mean, it's like $40,000 more, but you're learning much more. Like I've been to the campus and have seen some stuff. Full Sail University seems to be legit. I mean, I don't know, don't quote me on that, but there is one school that I want to go to in Los Angeles for film, and it's called Video Symphony. And for the most part, it's a school that I would take a chance with, just because it's, I think it was $20,000 to go for a year, and you get certified for certain programs, which helps you get jobs in the career field. And the fact that it's in LA, that's great. So if you've been to a school, let me know and leave a comment. And yeah, that's just what I think about college. So I'll talk to you later.